Hey there. So, my next guest proves that it's not necessarily about the destination, but the journey that you go through to get there. Because it sounds like he really kind of holds it against himself, and other people hold it against him, that he had kind of a turbulent beginning of his professional career, but he ended up being somewhere that he's truly happy. And I think that's like the most important thing. So, I know you all are going to love this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Andrew Exler. Hey there, Andrew. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
Nice cold day in Pittsburgh, PA. Plenty of snow right now.
You guys had a big storm just roll through there recently, didn't you?
Yeah, we kind of got the back end. I know like New York had it a lot worse than we did, but we probably have 6 or 8 inches outside right now.
Is it still white or has it turned brown yet?
Still white. We got a fresh coating this morning.
I love it. All right. So, Andrew, I like getting this show started just right into it. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Wow, what a question. I like to think of myself as a little pocket knife. I started my career working in sports, moved into the nonprofit world for a little bit, moved into the accounting world, into a family business because I felt like I had to, and then found myself back into the esports marketing world. I own a social media consulting business and work. I mean, my biggest, I guess, client / I'm like almost like a full-time employee is in the esports industry. And I mean, I absolutely love it.
Beautiful. All right. So before we get any further, and like you gave me a lot to like lead off of, I start every interview with a single question. So I'm going to ask you just like I ask everybody else. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Andrew?
I mean, I guess like the scale of that could be like, what is your definition of weird? I'll call myself a 6 or 7. I'm pretty comfortable with the uncomfortable and don't really care who knows it and what they think. So yeah, I'd say probably closer to the weird scale just because it's free.
It's free? What's free?
Freeing. Yeah.
Oh, freeing. Okay. I love it. So like, what kind of things are you into then? What is it that makes you weird?
I mean, I like a lot of different things. And I think a lot of the people I surround myself with, I love my friends, they range. I mean, they range on the weird scale from 1 to 15 out of 10. So it's just the background I come from. I've got friends who love sports and love talking about sports, and they're kind of bro-y. But then I also have friends who are very introverted, very quiet, and I can really balance myself between both of them. But I don't know if they would balance with each other if they were hanging out sometimes. So I like to be myself and try and inspire other people to be themselves, I guess.
Fantastic. All right. So, Andrew, this is the Gamerpreneur podcast. So I do need your gaming cred. When did you first start playing video games?
Probably when before I even remember it, I probably had a little handheld. I remember getting my Nintendo 64 for the holidays one year. That was like my first big time console. So must have been 5 or years old.
All right. And I take it your love of gaming continued from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be transparent and lead off. Like, I mean, compared to people I know in the esports industry, I'm definitely not like, I'm kind of like the imposter gamer. I love it. I grew up kind of with an Xbox. I was pretty fortunate there, but I mean, coming into the esports industry has been a whirlwind for me, trying to learn every day.
Hey, you're dropping Among Us jokes. So, I mean, like you meet the criteria.
Exactly.
All right. What do you play today, if anything?
I'm big on Fortnite, just because I found like especially since the pandemic started, that's kind of how I talk to my friends. I mean, we're not really hopping on FaceTime anymore. We get on Fortnite for an hour or two. We see what's going on in each other's lives. Call of Duty, I've started to play. I haven't been into like the ultra violent games. So those two, I mean, I've played Among Us, love Madden, NBA 2K, NHL, a lot of the sports games.
Okay, wonderful. And if you had to pick one game as your all-time favorite, which one is it?
NFL Blitz 2000.
Oh, I love it. Oh, you just keep tackling. It's 5 minutes after the play ends.
Easy. Yeah.
They don't make games like that anymore. I wish they would.
No, NFL Blitz 2000, easy. I played with Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino all the time. It was the best.
Oh man, you don't find many people talking about that one. All right. So Andrew, let's hop over to the preneur part. Now you kind of did give us a little bit of your background, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more in depth about your professional background and how you ended up where you're at and what you do today?
Sure. So my elevator speech when I talk about going from various industries, which is kind of looked down upon, it very often is I experienced multiple professions and I learned a ton in each, which helped me get to where I am. So um, when I do a lot of speaking engagements sometimes, especially with like college students. And the first thing I kind of say is I think a lot of college students are set up for failure. The way that they're pressured to have a job and know what you want to do the rest of your life the day you graduate, and a year before you're going to graduate, you need to know. So I grew up wanting to work in sports. Thought that was the place. I was lucky. I got a job offer to work in the NHL before I graduated, and almost immediately into the job, the novelty of working in an arena wore off very quickly. I found myself really, like not wanting to be at games. And when I would go to a game as a fan, I wouldn't really want to be there. So I found myself wanting to find a job where I can work my day job and enjoy the sporting event at night and really make it something like that. So I made a transition into the nonprofit world, which was great. I was working for a youth leadership development organization. But when I kind of talk about these transitions, when I started in sports, working in sports made me amazing at communicating with people. I worked in sales. I was on phone calls all day. So I was able to take those personality skills and communication skills into my next job. Worked in the nonprofit world and loved my experience there. Wasn't a career job, but it was definitely great to have a little bit more experience. I wasn't making cold calls all day, but I was learning about budgeting. I had to deal with parents, teenagers, people of all ages. And while I was working that job, I went back to school and got an accounting degree. I come from a family of accountants, and it was always kind of like my whole life was kind of like, when is Andrew going to be taking over the business? And I went to school, went and worked there for a few years, and it was just not my cup of tea. I'm too extroverted to be sitting in a corner office all day. But again, getting an accounting degree and really learning those skills have helped me in every area of business where I am now. I love social media. I always kind of did it on the side. I got a Facebook page right when I was eligible in 2005 as a high schooler, when they opened it to high schoolers. And I remember I was sitting, I worked for the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus, Ohio. And I was on one of my first days. I remember I was sitting with the social media manager for the Blue Jackets. And that was 2013, still pretty early when sports teams started to include social media as a major part of what they do. And he's sitting there tweeting. He's like, I would go eat my lunch during warmups. I would go watch practice and go just eat lunch in the bowl. And he's there taking pictures. And I'm like, is this all you do all day? And he's like, pretty much. And that's not to diminish, but like that was part of his job, is getting to go tweet and take pictures of these guys playing hockey. And that's when I started just doing stuff like that for fun on the side, for friends, for family friends, and just small businesses who I knew of. I just volunteered my time to start doing that. Fast forward 6 or 7 years to 2018, when I knew I was leaving the accounting world, I launched my own consulting business. I didn't yet have the experience to go get a job in social media. And I also was kind of like too old at that point to get an internship. So I just found a way to get some revenue doing it for myself and for more businesses. And it led me back into the esports world, which was like the perfect pairing. So my timing worked out. But I'm a big believer in, if you're not happy in your job or whatever it is, move on. Don't quit your day job today, but like have a plan and find out how you learned from everything you've done, versus like you get people who quit their jobs and my boss sucked, I didn't get paid enough, whatever the excuses are. And that's not the right way, versus I learned this, and this, and that's why now I'm the best candidate for this next job or whatever it is. So for me, it's just been a lot of learning. I've experienced a lot in my short career. And I like to think I have some pretty lofty goals for the future.
Beautiful. All right. So you've been at this business of yours for about 3 years or so. Mm-hmm. And what has that been like? Has it been going well, or?
Yeah. I think my timing worked out. The harder you work, the luckier you get. So whenever I started it, and I got introduced to an organization called Lost Tribe Esports, which is the organization I'm the director of content and strategy there. That's sweatshirt. I've got one of their esports jerseys in the back. Absolutely love it. We're a startup esports organization, really tailored for the Jewish community, but we're open to anybody who wants to participate with us. And we started in 2018, so I was the fourth person hired to work there. And since then, we have just been building our community, gaming tournaments, and even more into like lifestyle branding, not just esports, sports, culture, fashion, entertainment, you name it. We're trying to really build a community within a community, and esports is kind of like the cherry for us.
Fantastic. Okay, now, Andrew, just how important is social media nowadays? Because I hear every now and then, Facebook is dying, Twitter is dying. I hear it, we're moving on to something else, but I never see anything. How is that industry going?
You have to be on social media if you want to have, individually, I think with the pandemic, you've seen a rise in personal brands. People talk about their personal brand. People have personal websites now because you just never know where one day in the future it's going to help you out to have a website or to start a blog or to just be active on your social media channels. There was an article I read early on in the pandemic, and it was basically the statistics of restaurants who were posting actively on social media their takeout menus and all these options versus restaurants who weren't. And then my desk is starting to rise. And which restaurants were doing better and which ones had to close because people weren't buying because they didn't necessarily know. I have blogs that I've done on why you or your business or as an individual should be on social media. It is top tier.
Okay. And is there like a single uniform track that everyone needs to do? You just like cookie cutter plan, or how individualized does it need to get?
It's so unique. The mistake people make is say, I want to be on social media. So they make a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Twitter, an Instagram, a Snapchat, all these different things without really first asking like the question of like, who's my audience? What are my goals on social media? Because it's so different. You look across the platforms, we know Facebook is more boomer generation, millennial generation, where like when I talk to Gen Z about Facebook, they think I'm too old, and I'm not. I'm 29 years old, and they think I'm so old being on Facebook. So really targeting your audience and what are you doing on each platform. On LinkedIn, it's a little bit more B2B, a little bit more businessy. How can you be conversational on Twitter? So it all depends. It's just you don't have to be on every platform, but you want to be great on the platforms you are on.
Okay, fantastic. Now, can you discuss a little bit more about what you do with Lost Tribe Esports? You say you're the director of content development.
Yeah, so I'm the director of content and strategy for Lost Tribe. And so our CEO, he's a mentor of mine who I knew growing up. Love him. His name's Lenny. And whenever he was first starting Lost Tribe, he'd send emails out, just kind of sharing like the updates of it. And when I was getting ready to launch my business and leave the accounting world, I see an email and I go to his website and I see their Instagram page and it's like pictures of him. It's like he's taking pictures of himself with his friends, taking selfies. And I sent him an email. I was like, I think you need my help. Just like a couple 5-10 hours a week, because they were still very much in a startup phase. So I started just a couple hours a week working with him. And since then, I was the 4th staff member hired at the time. Now we've got a team of, I think, 7 or 8 staff members, 15 interns. We're partnered with organizations globally. So I've been personally building our social media everywhere we are. A lot of our marketing partnerships. As a startup, we all do a little bit of everything. And I also oversee our intern program.
Okay. To what extent do you think social media helps grow the business? Or is it the business growth that causes the social media to grow?
The social media, you are the first line of anything public for your business or your brand, your organization, whatever it is. For us, we 2020 was our first like full year in operation. And because of our social media presence and the statistics that we were able to pull together, that is absolutely why we've been able to engage as many of like the individuals in the Jewish community in what we're doing. We've had people who have come on a Twitch stream of ours saying, I found you because of your TikTok that you made. So we know people are finding us. There's a whole story behind Lost Tribe, but essentially in the Jewish community, 80% of Jewish individuals become disengaged in Jewish life after their bar bat mitzvah at like 12, 13 years old, meaning 20% of them are engaged. How do you get everybody else back in? We know through social media, that's how we can really reach those individuals. And if their connection to us is because they like watching a podcast that might refer to something that's a Jewish topic. I mean, we don't go too over the top with it, then great. That's how they're engaging with us. And because of our social media presence, we've been able to be very successful.
Beautiful. Okay. What makes you good at this, Andrew? Like there's lots of people out there who claim that they're, social media experts, and then you actually check out their social media and it's right. But what skills or what talent do you have to be able to do this well?
I think I'm a people person. I can really have a conversation with a wall if I need to. I can find a way to pull people out of like their comfort zone a little bit and want to talk. I'm the first person to ask for help when I need it. So like my presence online, I mean, Twitter is one of my favorite platforms because I've been able to connect with other social media managers because naturally we're all on social media. And I've been able to ask for help of like, if I identify someone who's really great in branding or someone who's really great in partnerships, I'll reach out and I'll get on a call with them and just say, how can we be beneficial to each other and just kind of build a relationship and keep in touch. And by being open to other professionals who I know are better than me at certain things, it's helped me grow a lot individually and helped our brand grow.
Wonderful. Now, earlier you mentioned that you had mentors. Just how important is having a mentor in your life?
Without the mentors I have, I mean, I can think of like my first 3 calls that I make whenever I need them. I would probably be in a miserable cubicle right now still. I would be a different person.
Your family kept you in a cubicle?
I would be in a job that I am not happy in. I wouldn't have been kind of like told, because the thing with a mentor is you don't want someone who's going to sugarcoat things for you. You want someone who's going to tell you the hard truth and give you that constructive criticism and tell you whenever you need to get your stuff together. And I've had people who have told me like, you don't belong in that role. Here's what kind of a plan you need to make to get yourself to that next level. And because I've had some tough love, it's really helped me.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned the challenges of colleges kind of setting up students for failure. I would like you to go back in time with me 11 years. And if you could go back in time to about 18-year-old you, and you could talk to him and tell him everything that was going to happen over the next 11 years of his life, kind of explain the journey and all of that. But there was like one thing he absolutely had to know. What would you tell yourself?
When your advisor sits you down because you're not doing that well in school and says, I'm not letting you leave this office until you make a LinkedIn page, listen to him and don't roll your eyes, do it. Because my advisor sat me down in 2011 and literally said, he's like, you're a people person, but you're like, you got to get it together. You got to kind of figure out what you want. He made me make a LinkedIn page that day. He made me connect with his colleagues and my family friends, and he kind of told me who. And my LinkedIn has helped me so much. I mean, kind of like my Twitter presence. Because of that, I've been able to meet so many people and learn from a lot of people. And that would be the first thing is like, don't roll your eyes at it. Do it sooner, honestly.
I'll tell you, in 2011, I wrote off LinkedIn as well. It was different back then. Like they totally did a revamp, 6-7 years ago or so. And it's so much better now. It's a fantastic, Andrew, you and I met over LinkedIn. That's how we connected. Okay. What advice do you have for business owners out there? Maybe it's a gamer who's looking to get into business, or someone who would want to follow in your footsteps. What advice do you have for someone kind of getting into this field?
For getting into like the esports field, or just in general?
In general.
I think accepting reality. And I define that as I think there's so many people, business owners who think, all right, when the pandemic ends, we're going back to normal. And that is just not the case. I don't know what normal was. I don't know what normal is now. I don't know what normal is going to be in 5 years. But especially for the esports world, the reason why, I mean, Lost Tribe really, I don't want to say took off because I don't want to word it the wrong way, but when the pandemic hit, people started to see an appreciation for the virtual space. All of a sudden, video games are bad wasn't true anymore. Screens are bad, go play outside isn't as true anymore. And since we work a lot with teenagers and young adults, parents were a major barrier for us. Just because they thought esports were bad. And I think our partner organizations, whether they're youth groups, camps, synagogues, day schools, whatever it is, sometimes I have conversations where they are saying, I am not bringing video games in because it'll piss off all the parents. And that's not like, we can't do it. And then I have others who say, we want to build a Minecraft camp. we want to figure out ways to engage people virtually year round. Summer camps who now realize that they can do virtual year round opportunities instead of only June, July, and August are the ones that are going to be more successful down the road. So I think it's just kind of accepting the cards we've been dealt the last year and understanding that the virtual world isn't going away. The esports industry is going to be stronger than every professional sports league, and more profitable than every professional sports league in the next 5 to 10 years, if it's not already. So just accepting reality and pivoting and accepting change is a good thing.
I love it. All right. What insights do you have on the esports side of it?
Insights, I mean, I couldn't really give you anything specific as I'm still learning so much about it every single day. But it is just amazing watching the esports industry continue to start to get this positive reputation, where at first it was esports means I'm a professional gamer and that's really it. But now it's, you can work in advertising in esports. You can be an accountant for an esports team. You can go work in coding and be an engineer, work in marketing, whatever it is. There are so many opportunities. I love how I'm starting to see colleges have esports teams, esports clubs. The University of Kentucky, I just saw a video a couple weeks ago of this ridiculous esports like gaming center that they have for their team. High schoolers creating esports clubs, and there's just so much professional and personal growth. It's become such a great space for those with mental health needs. I mean, we all have mental health needs, but like that's for me, like hopping on Fortnite at the end of the day and talking to my friends. And like, that's just kind of like my time to get away and relax. And sometimes I get to play for work, and that's just kind of a bonus.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, I'd like to get a little more personal if possible. You see, Andrew, I believe that we learn the most of our life from our failures, not necessarily our successes. Because when you succeed, you may not realize what happened. But when you fail, you got to take a look at it. You got to figure out what went wrong. And then you have to be able to move forward in order to be able to succeed the next time. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life? And what did you learn from it?
Biggest failure in life? That's a great question. I don't know if it was looking back, it wasn't here. Each I started to just grow out of a job, like how I switched industries, and I would have to have that conversation with my dad. That's kind of the first person I go to talk about those things, who's supportive of everything I do. The first kind of topic was, are you sure you want to do this to your resume? And then like I go to try and find a job in that next industry I want to get into, and they're so we're sorry, we don't want someone who's had 3 jobs in 4 years, whatever it is. So at the time, I mean, those were to me failures. I was like, I thought I could work in sports. I thought I wanted to do this, and I can't. And I got really down on myself. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I did kind of have like a life-changing moment experience that really pivoted everything that I can get into if we want to, that I look back, and that's how I started to realize, you know what, when I worked in sports, I became an excellent communicator, and I became very persuasive, and I can confidently talk to people. When I worked in the nonprofit world, I learned how to fundraise and how to really be able to reach people's emotions and be empathetic and work around whatever it is that we need to work around for a common mission and goal. So that's really where the failures, I guess. But now looking back, I've been able to grow from them.
All right. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Kind of on the flip side, what is something you're working to improve on yourself today?
I mean, every single day, I'm trying to learn something new. Right now, I was actually just having this conversation with my fiance about like when you get asked like your biggest strength and your biggest weakness, and telling your weakness is like one of the hardest things to like think about, because you might want to say like, I tried too hard, or I'm too good at this and I need to not, because you want to turn it into a positive. For me, I still struggle with delegating responsibilities and really kind of trusting other people to do either if they're working on something for me or with me to do a project that I know I could do a pretty good job at, but I just don't necessarily have time to do it. So I've like tried to really get better at giving clear, concise, specific instructions to things whenever I am delegating a responsibility. But that would probably be the one thing I'm continuing to try to get comfortable with.
All right. One more fun question. And before we bring this in for a landing, here you go. What is something that you think people misunderstand about you the first time they meet you?
They think that I'm just someone who kind of gets bored in a job and I move on. Whenever I talk about when I talk about my experiences and how I've gotten, how have you gone from sports to nonprofit to accounting to esports, social media. So I think there's just kind of that negative connotation in general to people who leave jobs for whatever the reasons without really asking why. But then I'm able to have 3 more minutes of discussion. It's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You've actually grown and you've learned and you've been able to really continue that path.
Okay, wonderful. Andrew, this has been a fantastic interview. How do people find you? How do they reach out to you? Where are you at on social media? All that, please.
Sure. I mean, my hub is my website, andrewexler.com. And that has links to everything else that I'm doing, to all the other organizations I work with. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those would probably be my first 2 recommendations outside of my website.
Okay, perfect. And as we wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share, or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
No, excuse me. I really appreciate this time. I definitely love talking to people about esports. I've actually been fortunate to be on a few different like marketing and esports podcasts recently, and I love seeing that growth in the marketing world as like my personal like social media branding self. I love seeing other people creating podcasts and creating shows in whatever it is that they like to talk about. It's very clear that you're passionate about this and have been really successful, seeing the following you have on Facebook and on your website. So I'm all about it. I love people who are doing personal branding and creating their own their own success stories.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I started about 2013 on digital marketing as well. And I've done some presentations as well. I'm right there with you. Like, this is the future and everybody's ignoring it.
Yep. Twitch is becoming like the stat I saw the other day. I don't remember the number, but it's like the amount of people that are on Twitch streaming their own shows. It's not only really a gaming platform for streaming anymore. And I think people are just starting to realize like podcasts are the new written blog, and it's still so early in like the world of how many podcasts exist. So it's going to be, I don't know what the next thing is going to be in 10 years, but I'm very excited to see.
Absolutely. All right, Andrew Exler, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I genuinely do appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.